Hello, welcome to my cake kitchen. I'm Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate baking and decorating easily. If you see me for the first time, hello there, great to have you. What are we doing? We are jumping right into it, and we're going to be filling and stacking our cake. This is a beginner's basics. I've done this a ton of times over here, but I never miss the chance to kind of take you through the process of filling and stacking a cake, simply because there's always something new to learn in the process, and there's always a way to get it right and even get better and better at it. So I'm not mad about the repetitive process, because if you've been on this channel and you've seen me fill cakes and decorate cakes and make cakes, you would have known that filling and stacking a cake is part of the cake decorating process. However, doing this over here is always a joy because I get to show you something new. Now, I'm going to talk you through exactly what we need for this task. First of all, we have the buttercream. Buttercream, well, I'll put the buttercream down. Let's start with the obvious thing here, cake. Now, if you're just joining me, you would know, you wouldn't know, by the way. If you're just joining me, you wouldn't know. But if you've been here, you will know that this cake was baked yesterday on a live. We came back today, we torted it, as in we leveled it, and now we have this entire cake you see over here. This buttercream I mixed on the previous live. You can check all of that information out. So you are literally part of the cake decorating process from bake to as the process develops. And in the previous live, I did say that cake layers, think about cake decorating as building a house. I know it's artsy, but think about it as building a house. So you need a stack of bricks to put together, right? So we have the cake here, which is the bricks. And then we have the buttercream. I'm no builder, but I'm just winging it here. But I hope you understand the principle, just so that it sticks a little better. We have buttercream here. This is my chocolate French buttercream, which I have done on this channel. It's up on the channel. I'll link it somewhere for you to see if you're interested. And we mixed it right on here. And that is going to serve as the cement to hold the bricks together. Unlike cement, though, that you cannot eat, obviously, this is cake and you eat it. So not only is it helping to hold the cake layers together, it has the additional task of providing depth of flavor and enhances the taste of the cake, which is the core role of buttercream in cake making. You can obviously use buttercream for polishing and covering the cake, but I am not covering this cake in buttercream. I am going to be using ganache, but we're not doing that in this session. So there's buttercream, there is chocolate here, and we need some tools. These are the main things you need. Without the cake or buttercream, then we can't do anything. But next is a set of tools here. I have my spatulas. I have just slimmed down my technique and materials and tools, just so that it is achievable and doable by yourself, because this is a complete beginner series for you. So there is this mid-size, let's say 5 to 6 inch spatula here, and one that is about 3 to 4 inches. I'm just winging the numbers, but as you can see, this is what we have. I also have an ice cream scoop. With over 10 years experience, sometimes I don't need the scoop because I can sort of eyeball it, but I'm trying to give you accurate information and to show you exactly how to get through the decorating process. So stick with me. So you need an ice cream scoop or a spoon. The point is, since the ice cream scoop is going to be used as a medium to measure the buttercream amount, so that we have same amount over the cake, so there is balance in the cake. Even if you don't have a scoop, it's fine. As long as you can use a spoon, just use the spoon, not just as in scraping or portioning the buttercream, but use the spoon as a means of measuring. So if you scoop two large spoonfuls for each, let it work that way. I hope you understand what I mean here. So spatula, a scoop as a measure for the buttercream. And this jar here is not just a jar of water, it's warm water. Why do I need warm water? Warm water because it will help spread the buttercream easily. So because I have metal bits on the scoop and the spatula, keeping them in warm water will help the spread and ease of working with the buttercream. Now, most importantly, other tools I will need here, or other necessities here, is a cake card. I have spoken a ton of times about cake card over here. Okay, the use of cake card is not always seen or explained if you are on this platform a lot and you see, not here, I mean, but if you are into cakes and you've seen so many cake makers make cakes, sometimes you don't see this, and one process is not better than the other. I just like to explain to you why I do certain things, so that when you employ the process, you will understand and it will work for you. So a cake card is not just a cake card. And by the way, we've covered the subject of cake card, ganache discs, and everything in detail on a live video. Go and watch it. I will link it here for you to see. So the cake card over here serves to help break the cake, the weight of the cake, but it also serves importantly as a barrier between the work surface, which I'm coming to in a minute, and the cake. So I'll be elaborating on the use of a cake card for stability purposes, but also for handling purposes. The cake card, again, for use, stability, and handling. 2 reasons. So it's not just a cake card for the sake of a cake card, it's a necessity in the cake decorating process. Stability and handling. Now I have a cake board here. Now, why do I need a cake board? For me, because I am using a turntable. Turntable. I have feelings about turntables, especially on this platform or on the internet, where people will try to sell you dreams. I don't want to go into a tangent, but please, if you're a beginner, come here. I'm talking to you. If you're a beginner and you've never made a cake and you want to learn to make a cake, okay? If you come across any cake maker on any platform who is telling you, don't buy this, go and spend £20 on another one, a metal something, just ignore them, okay? Just ignore them. They're trying to make commission off you, and that's all I'm saying, right? Now, let me break this down quickly for you. Is it convenient because it comes off and it's flimsy and it falls apart? Yes. Do I have a professional one? You bet I do. Okay? I do. I do have a professional one. In fact, I'm not going to be OTT to go and pick it up. Actually, I am. Bear with me. There you go. Okay. There you go. Okay. Is this better than this? Not necessarily. And that's a matter of fact. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to tell you what isn't true. This is sturdy. Okay. It is super sturdy. It's convenient. It's a professional type of turntable, okay? If you have the means, will I encourage you to swap? Of course. Has it got its own downsides? Yes. You know why? Because the height of this is higher, sometimes I have to adjust my work surface. And if you cannot adjust your work surface, working at a level can be really difficult. Something some of your favorite creators won't tell you. They won't tell you, they will tell you, especially on TikTok, they'll tell you, oh, give this up and go buy this. Please don't, especially if you don't have the means. If you have the means, go and buy it, okay? I mean, sometimes this comes as a set for beginners. I have seen very good value ones where you can get them with all sorts of decorating items for £30 or less. If you see something like that, take it from your auntie. I'm not trying to make any money off you. If you see that that's good value, go pick it up, okay? It's an aluminum one. It works. It's steady. Pick it up for the value that it provides. But if you cannot afford it, please. For some of my, if you went to my website right now, for some of my most significant work, I made them using this 10. It was less than £10. I think it was £6. I picked it from my local Sainsbury's, which is the equivalent of Walmart, or is it Lowe's in the US? I'm sorry, I don't know the exact equivalent, but it's like a regular branded supermarket, nothing fancy. It's a cheap thing. And some of my most significant cakes that you will see and drool over were made using that. The point is, there is value is contextual, and there is a time and a place for every and anything. Now, if you've decorated cakes for a long time and you feel like you want to upgrade, why not? I had this for almost 5 years plus before I switched to the metal one. And you've been here for the last X amount of months. Have you seen me with the metal one? No. But if you go to some of my old videos, you will see that I have the metal one. Why? Because I'm not in this kitchen. I'm actually in a set that I created. And I have to adjust my worktop to kind of accommodate that. That's a little tangent about me and turntables. Now, over the turntable, oh God. Whew. Over the turntable, you want to make sure you have an Over the turntable, you want to make sure you have a non-slip mat. This is what you call a non-slip mat. The non-slip mat will make sure that when you are working on the cake is not shifting and sliding on you. Now, back to the cake board. Why do I need a cake board? There are different surfaces on which one can be working their cake on. For instance, if you have a cake plate or a cake stand that you are directly working on the cake. And sometimes I've seen creators use work directly on the turntable, like the aluminium one, for instance. They will stack the cake right on it. They do that generally for demonstration purposes, and once they finish the tutorial, they probably move the cake, which will be messy, and they have to clean up all over again. So best practice, find yourself a cake board or something that will work as a barrier between your cake and serve as your cake surface, your work surface. Because what will happen is, when I put the cake card on this, remember I told you cake card is for the purposes of what? Stability and handling. By putting the cake card here, I build the cake on top of it. It stabilizes the cake during handling. So when I go to lift the cake is not wobbly and it's not feeling like it's going to fall over, because it is sealed, held in place by this card. Right, for handling purposes, if I have to sort of, because I'm working on a cake surface, which is a board, if I have to move the cake to the display surface, which will eventually be how the cake is presented, I am not poking into the cake or risking some handling or mishandling of the cake. That will be a problem. And for hygiene and safety, food safety, it's always better to make sure that your cake doesn't feel exposed, especially if you're moving the cake across multiple surfaces. And that is the tangent about cake cards, cake drums, and turntables. How are you? It's my neighbor's kid. Whew. Why do I feel like I was so angry? By the way, because it makes me angry. I can't tell you the number of times I come across a video on TikTok and you see a creator dramatically going, don't use this, don't you throw it away. It's not like, go away. That's just by the way. Now, let's go and fill this up, right? To start with, the stacking of the cake, we have our cake board in place. We're going to glue the card to the board. Now, this is where I say, don't be like me, okay? For all intent and purposes, do not glue with buttercream. Buttercream is not stable at all. It won't work. It doesn't help. I'm only using buttercream for the purposes of this demonstration, but I might as well just put it in the fridge whilst it chills, and then let me wipe up whilst I engage with you a little bit, and then we'll see. Karabo, thank you for validating what I'm saying. Thank you. Because sometimes you want real people with real experience, right? Because if you go to TikTok, they will sell you all sorts of dreams, madam. My darling, there you go. What am I missing? Anyway, if you're new to the channel, hello there. I am Gladys. I love cake. Have I told you lately? Those who know me know me. I love cake and I really do get passionate about the subject. But if you're meeting me for the first time, show by hand. There is Robert in the chat. Okay, so there is Karabo, there is Tapitha, there is Robert. Did I see Robert? Yep. Robert, are you? Oh, Seasons, darling. How are you? There is Dawn, Dawn Shaw. I think Dawn, you were in the earlier live, were you? Hi Dawn, great to have you back. There is, I'm trying to get this name right. Is it Umadevi Mahmood? Did I get that? Is that you did I pronounce the name right? Is it Umadevi or is Madevi? You know, pronouncing people's names, you just have to be extremely cautious. And I hope I got that right. Welcome to the stream, right? How many of you, the new people, for some of you who are like, who are part of the furniture of the place, this is not for you. For some of you new people, are you bakers? Like, do you like to bake? I'm just curious to know your journey and whether you're just stopping for the chit chat, because these tutorials have dissolved into like, I think, was it yesterday or the day before, where there's Melinda, Melinda Bucks. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, things have gotten really serious real quick, isn't it? Because the last, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday we had, yesterday. I come here a lot. Sometimes I forget why I'm here. Okay. I'll say Uma. Uma loves cakes. She bakes for fun. And Melinda, I love, oh, you love to bake. Okay. It's great to have you all, right? So what's your favorite, my new people, Uma and Melinda, what is your favorite thing to bake? Like, I'm just curious to know what you like to bake. There's Adnan. Adnan, can you please? Adnan, hey, welcome to the stream, right? Let's put these away and let's go get there. I was just saying, buttercream is not your most stable thing to use, but there is a reason why I am using it here, because that's all I actually have. So next is to spread enough buttercream on your board. And what I'm doing with the spatula, you can see things are moving rather freely here. That didn't just happen, right? That is because the metal part has been in the warm water and I'm moving it around. Now, if I'm actually being honest with you, this cake card is shifting. Look, it is shifting. Now, that is one good reason for unstable cakes, if you're not careful, because if your cake card is shifting underneath, it will cause you stability problems. So you want to make sure that this is really set. And then first of all, okay, let me just kind of elaborate a little bit about the stacking process, because you don't just stack and fill the cake, right? You want to actually look at your cakes, because after leveling, if you were here earlier when we leveled the cakes, you will see that 2 layers went very level, which is these two. You can see that in the middle here. They went very level and these are level. And also, even though they are supposed to be an inch each, if you look at it, you can see some are a little bigger. For instance, I can see this is my biggest cake. And don't forget, chocolate cake is very heavy. So for stability purposes, your heaviest cakes should always go below, as in start with the heaviest cakes so that the lighter ones are stacked on top. Because if you start with the lighter ones and the heavier ones goes on top, you might end up with stability problems with the cake cracking. Okay, so this is my heaviest of all of them. You don't just sit it on. You look closely to determine and at this point there's more to observing and looking at eye level, getting down and making sure that the cake is kind of set on the card properly. Don't forget that the card is shifting because of the buttercream. So if you are a beginner, at this point, the moment you notice your cake is shifting or the card is shifting, leave this and the entire thing in the fridge. Lift your worked thing, okay? Go put it in the fridge and let it set completely, okay? I'm not saying go and freeze it, just leave it to set completely. Because anything you do after here will be the difference between whether you achieve a stable cake or a very wonky cake. So I think just for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to stick with my own advice and I'm going to put it in the fridge, because if I don't put it in the fridge, I'm going to have to employ my own like technical experience for filling cakes, and that will do you a disservice. So I'm going to put that in the big fridge so that it chills quickly, and I'll come back and I'll talk to you some more. All right, so bear with me. One last thing though, you want to make sure that when you put the cake in the fridge, the surface on which you put the board is level. Because if there's any movement or sliding or shifting in the surface, it will affect how the cake is placed. Now let's go into the chat. Nick is back. Nick, darling, how are you? You know what? I was here earlier. This is my second live today. And I was here earlier, and on the live earlier, I said, you know who I haven't seen over here in a few days? You. And I'm like, let's go and find Nick. So I was going to finish because I've been moving quite a lot. As in, I've been on the live, but life after the live has been a little busy for me. So I haven't actually sat to consume content. So I have seen you, but I haven't managed to engage a lot. But it's great to see you. How are you, my love? There's a lot happening and I've missed it. Okay. I've missed, oh, Joe. Okay. Right. Nick was asking, what cake am I making? We're filling and stacking a chocolate cake. The chocolate cake was baked here yesterday. Yeah, it was baked here yesterday. We came back today to toast the chocolate cake. And then now we are filling and stacking it all together. So that's what we're doing. At this moment in time, what's happening? The board surface on which the cake is displayed is shifting. So we've had to kind of put it in the fridge for it to set before I continue, which is what we are doing. So let me see what I am missing. Okay, Dawn said, with so many people watching, thank you for remembering me. I am a home baker. I'm 63. So grandchildren appreciate my home cooked meals, cakes, biscuit, even though I don't eat them myself. Dawn, thank you. Dawn, the little things do count. And actually, we are such a close-knit community here. It does get busy, but to be honest, the moderators in there, you have your Nicks, Tatiana's, those you met earlier, right? we kind of know each other in the chat, so we always notice new people. And it is my hope that when someone comes into the stream, first of all, not only should we get to know them, but we hope that you don't feel like a stranger out here. So great little detail over there, and thanks for sharing that. Right, I mean, you are not alone in doing the bakes and not eating them. Ask me what happens to my bakes. A lot of the time they are sat here, and then we make doggy hop. Look, you're in my home kitchen. There are some random 2 people here. They're going to be shouting when they walk past. We call them the little producer.
Bulldog is right there.
Wait.
Looking at me weird.
Close the door.
Hello, don't you think? That is the doggy's friend.
No.
That's Mr. B.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a photo of Arlo's dog?
No.
It's
that's
a
Manny,
bulldog.
right?
It was
Okay.
looking at me like it was gonna beat me
Look
up.
at Manny's friend. How are you though? We're on it. Sorry. What's happened to your head? You had your head what? How did you do that, you bugger? How did you do that? Oh no. But it was fun, right? Well, I love the... Now that is not a good finish to it, is it? Well, remember the fun. It will keep you going, all right? I'm going to get to work, but I'll see you sometime. You're doing well with your walk, though. Look after yourself, okay? People, you're in my home kitchen. I have kids who love a chocolate cake, and every time they see me here, they come and stick by my window, pretending to want to talk to me. They want cake, but there. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, Lord. Oh, God. Well, if you want to know my little chit chat on the side, like we have a whole sideshow over here. So welcome you all, the new and the old people. My little sideshow, the neighbor's kid went to a water park, bumped his head with all the fun, and ended up with the American version of ER. We say A&E, accident and emergency. So bumped his head, had a cut in his head, and had to go and have it stitched up. That's what he was telling me. Anyway, but whilst we're having that conversation, anyone, for those new people, we have a monstrosity here. I'll show you. Close your eyes now. We have a puppy that doubles as a hog roast. And actually, fun fact, it looks like the neighbor's dog. The neighbor's kid. That's why I said they should take a photo of it. We made it.
I saw him put it in.
So that's just by the way. But yeah, let's get to work, people. Let's get to work. Do you need anything from here?
We do. I need a plate and a glass of milk for Rio. He's got hot wings.
There you go. That's your plate. These are random people in my house. Can you leave?
And yeah, we don't have a glass.
Yeah, I'll give you some milk. There you go. Wait, I'll pass it. There you go. Help yourself.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a lovely evening.
We will. We are. We're putting a movie on.
Sorry. What are you watching?
Behind Enemy Lines. Because
Okay.
it's suitable for Rio.
Joy's World.
An action movie.
Okay, Don is talking to Nicola. Joy's World is back. Joy, hey. Hey friend, let me go get the cake. Dawn enjoys cooking for everyone. People, whilst we're in the chat, there's 18 of us in there. If you like to just if you enjoy the video, if you would like to give us a like, that would help us a lot here, because it tells YouTube you are having your best time over here, and it also helps to put the video in front of people who will find it useful. Okay, so our cake is back. I cannot pretend that this is really sturdy. So normally, if you've been here, you will find that I love using ganache as the glue between the workboard and the cake surface. But that is neither here nor there. Now we are moving on to the next phase of the decorating process, which is filling the cake itself, right? And as we spoke through the tools, I said I need a scoop. So we have one here and two. I mean, you can't go wrong with too much buttercream, but then again, the buttercream used in a cake is relative. Some people want more buttercream, some people want less. But general practice is to make sure that the buttercream is just enough that there is balance. You don't want it overwhelming the cake too much, but you also don't want to put any less. Besides of overwhelming the taste of the cake, there's also the subject of stability. If you use too much buttercream and the buttercream is not stable, it is going to affect how your cake shifts and moves around. So that's something to note. French buttercream is not known to be very stable. I have said that time and again over here. I like French buttercream. It's a preference thing. If you're a beginner, avoid it. Because if the intention matters here, because I use ganache for covering the cake. So it doesn't matter what I use in filling the cake, if you like, because eventually the cake will hold. So I make room for my own outcome, which is why I love French buttercream. It's great tasting, amazing, but it is not very stable. That is something I have said time and again, and you'll probably get bored of me saying that. Now I'm just using a plastic scraper here. I think that is one of the tools I didn't mention. I should have mentioned that, a plastic scraper. And all I'm doing is just clearing the side of the cake to get the bits in. Now, let me get a proper spatula so that I can scrape the rest of the buttercream in. Because quite frankly, I don't have a choice. I only have what I have left and I can't. I have to be cautious about how much I use. Okay, we have another one. We have 4 layers of cake and 3 layers of buttercream. And then there you go. So now this. There you go. Right. And then next, between the 2 cakes, this will be the next one. And don't forget that above all the reasons why you want to use, you want to fill your cake after torting, buttercream also will eventually add, it will lend to height for you. So, yeah. Let me just make sure I can get 2 scoops. Matilda says, I love your lashes. Thank you, Matilda. Thank you. There you go. And then this is the last bit. You have 1 here, and then there's 2. So essentially, the amount of buttercream I had was just enough. Just going to add a lot here. There you go. And that's it. And then what I am going to do is use the same spatula. I mean, it's the small spatula I have, but for what I am doing, you could also go for this spatula. And when filling and stacking a cake, buttercream is not the only choice, by the way. Just so you know, buttercream is not the only choice for filling and stacking a cake, but it is the easiest and most accessible that you will find. There are also different kind of fillings. There are soft fillings. Okay, So there you have it. This is the part where you look at the cake, you make sure that things are set. Okay. And whilst experience might probably be on my side, this is reasonably achievable by any and everybody if you follow the exact processes I have showed here. So I'm going to wipe this down, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the variations of the stacking process and what state your cake can be in and what might probably help make things a little easier for you. Okay, there you go. I'm just going to right, there you have it. So, well, please don't be like me, because on a sunny day when this is all shifting and sliding with the French buttercream, and you do that, before you see that your cake is flying to the left. Okay, so please don't do that. But I'm just doing this because I'm just excited. So what do we think? I want to hear your feedback in this chat, because I can see it here. I think it's all right. I think it's all right. But sometimes you can't tell how straight a cake is until you look at it from different angles. So what do you think? Do you think this is all right? I mean, if you see me moving there, I'm trying to look at it from a different angle. That's all, right? What do you think? Mika says, OMG. Welcome, Mika. Great to have you. What are you OMGing about? You must have seen God. Is it? No, I'm kidding. Right. Just a polite reminder, if you're just new here, thank you for stopping by. We were having a chat about those of you. Okay, thank you, Nick. Nick says it's not slanting, and if Nick says it isn't, I believe her. You know why? Because she called my cake the Tower of Pizza. The leaning cake, okay? So when Nick tells me you're good, I mean, I know I'm good, okay? That said, hi, Kathleen's place, darling. Great to have you back. We haven't seen you for a few days. How are you, darling? It's straight. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you. Right. We were having a chat about our beginners and people in the chat, and that was Dawn, Uma, and Adnan. Is it Dawn, Uma, Adnan, and a few of you? And I was asking what you if you were bakers, and Dawn obviously told us Dawn is a grandma, and Dawn loves to cook for the family and everybody, and she loves to bake too. But like most bakers, she bakes and the grandkids and the kids all enjoy it, but she doesn't eat a lot of it. Well, yeah, she's not alone in that endeavor. We're all we all bake and we end up giving it away sometimes. You know, some days, look, I have first world problems when it comes to cakes. Sometimes I don't know who I should be giving a cake to, because you know what? For how much cake I make, not only do I just make cakes for making cakes, right? Because I have to test recipes, I have to research things, and sometimes when I'm deep in the science of it, it doesn't mean the cake is bad or anything, but say when I'm testing a recipe, it will eventually, let me just do something, 1 second. When I am testing recipes, after testing the recipe, I have to give the cakes away. So by so doing, I end up having more cakes than I need, because between content, because sometimes I just make cake for content. So between content, making cakes occasionally for customers, I don't make a lot of those now, and everything else in between, there's cake like literally on my table, like 7 days a week. I am caked out here. So as a result, there's only so many people you can give cake to in your life, and then they be like, enough now. Nobody has ever felt like enough now. But my point is, it's not like, I know they appreciate every chance that I get to give them a cake. They do. But then again, the novelty of having cake all the time made for you is gone. And I think there is something to be said about it. If you cannot attain a custom cake, either by buying it or that being given to you, either way, if something is unattainable for you, you will always relish and appreciate the chance to have it. And there's a sense of innocence and glee about it. But if you get the cake made and you convert from bakery style cakes to custom made cakes that are specifically tailored for you, after 3 birthdays, you're like, you know, the novelty is worn off. It doesn't mean they don't appreciate the cake. They do and always have. But the novelty of, oh, wow, it's gone now. So it's like, yeah, it's neither here nor there. Yep, Dawn can relate. She says that is very true. Joyce World says, nice content though. You're welcome. Well, look, I am here to serve you. So as long as you're getting value from the videos, I am always here to make the video to help you achieve your baking and decorating goals. That is said, remember we were talking about what forms you can stack your cake easily. Now, this is what I call a freshly baked cake. No, not freshly baked. This is a cake that was left on a countertop. So it is still within the description of fresh, albeit 24 hours later. I baked this cake right here, okay, yesterday. Left it on my countertop over here. And actually, when the live started in the previous one, I took it out of the plastic bags that I wrapped it in. You can wrap it in cling film as well, or you can actually put it in a container. Whatever you do, or however you choose to preserve the cake, the goal is not to mush the cake or tamper with the surface. That's all. Otherwise, save it however you like it. Another option is to get like a box, as a sealable box, put the cake in and cover it, as long as the cake is not exposed. But of course, you can leave it on a countertop with a clean kitchen towel or cloth over it next day. It doesn't necessarily have to go into a fridge. It doesn't have to be in a cooler box. You determine how you preserve the cake for the next 24 hours. And preservation is important here, because not only are the various ways you can preserve the cake dependent on your choices and circumstance at the time, it is also dependent on preserving the quality and taste of the cake, because a cake is as good as how it tastes or feels. And I think that is a less spoken about thing, right? Because when people are talking about freeze cakes, store cakes in the fridge, what's the state of your fridge? Like, seriously, what is the state of your fridge? What do you have in the fridge or freezer? Because I'll tell you what, cake is made of fat and oils. It will absorb the smell of its environment. So baking a cake in yesterday, if I decided to go and store it in a freezer or fridge that has strong smelling Gruyere or blue cheeses, and it absorbs the smell of the cheese, it is not fresh anymore, not because it has been stored for longer, but even at a short time of storage, the freshness is gone, because now my cake is smelling like cheese. Do you see what I'm saying? So the quality of a cake in terms of how you preserve it is determined by the state it is stored in and the environment within which it is kept. And that is supposed to be a guiding principle for the choices you make about how you preserve your cake. Tangent over. Now back to the reason why. Freshly baked cake or freeze your cakes or fridge stored cakes. The difference. I will start by saying one is not better than the other. Okay, whether you are saving your cakes in the fridge or you're leaving them on a countertop or freezing them, one is definitely not better than the other, right? Not at all. Your circumstance and objectives will determine what choices you make about preserving them, right? Now, talking about preserving them in the fridge or freezer, there is a lot of conversation online, and depending on where you're consuming your content from, you'll have, and I think this comes from some aspects of bakers and some, in want of a better word, less informed customers. I don't want to say ignorant. There is less informed. Because if you don't make cakes, you want to eat cakes. And you don't know about anything that goes into a cake except it's a cake, right? So the subject of freezing cakes has become very contentious because I'll move this out of the surface and then I'll talk to you. I see why the subject of freezing cakes is contentious. Because it is preceded by the wrong assumption that the cake is stale. Because why would you freeze a cake? To preserve it for longer, for which it would be stale. And if that is the assumption, that is feeding the sort of disregard or disinterest for freezing a cake, it is right. But I'll tell you what is not true. Freezing a cake doesn't necessarily make it stale. What makes a cake stale is simply freezing it longer than it's necessary, and for all the sediments and environmental factors that may affect any other food just as badly as. Do you see what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter if you're freezing a cake or you're freezing your favorite food. It's subject to freezer burns if you save it for longer than necessary. So I need you to understand freezing a cake is not a bad thing, and freezing a cake doesn't necessarily make it stale. Now, this is some interesting facts for you to know. That freezing a cake actually enhances the texture and quality in terms of the moisture of the cake. Okay? It does. Fun fact, go argue with your keyboard. I don't care, right? Freezing a cake will enhance the quality in terms of crumb integrity and texture of your cake. Why that is, there is a whole science to it. The simple terms is when you bake a cake warm, the steam that comes out of it, if you wrap the cake within the first 10 to 15 minutes, you trap the steam, and then the steam sets when you freeze the cake, which then thaws. So the steam sets when you wrap it, trapping it from escaping, which means the cake doesn't get to cool. The steam stays in the cake. And if you freeze it within that time, the same steam then becomes iced into the cake. Now, when the cake comes out of the freezer, that extra steam that has now set thaws and becomes moisture into the cake. I mean, that's the simple principle. I am sure if I was a scientist, I'll be able to break it down well for you to understand. But take it for someone who has baked for more than 10 years, who is telling you that freezing cakes is not the worst thing you can do to a cake. Again, I will say the quality of what I have just explained towards the integrity and crumb and texture of your cake is still determined by the state and the environment within which the cake is kept. Okay, so just because freezing a cake can enhance the crumb quality doesn't mean go and freeze your cake in a freezer that has blue cheese or smelly onions in it. Do you see what I'm saying? That said, You can freeze your cake from the first couple of minutes after it's been baked up until 3 months, as long as the conditions in your fridge is safe. And 3 months is like standard. Why would you freeze a cake for 3 months? I don't know. I've never done it, but I'm just giving you a guideline here, that as long as conditions are optimized for best taste, quality, and crumb integrity, you can freeze your cakes. Do I freeze my cakes? No. Why? Because I am supported by commercial tools here. I have a kitchen fridge that is exclusive for kitchen use, nothing to do with cakes. I have a commercial style fridge exclusively for cakes, 2 commercial style ones actually. So I don't have the same need to freeze my cakes to preserve time or to manage my time and working efficiently. But if I was making more cakes per week, trust me, I'll probably be freezing my cakes to help me manage my time whilst also enhancing the quality of my cakes. Now, can I put depending on what I'm doing, have I put a cake in the freezer to enhance the crumb quality? Yes, I have, because I have a commercial fridge or freezer that does that for me. So that is the information about freezing cakes. Now let's talk about cakes in a fridge. Right, this let's see what's happening here. Right, Dawn has baked longer than I have done this, and her grandfather, I'm going to read Dawn's comment here. So take it from master bakers and decorators who actually know this, and don't take my word alone for it. So Dawn's grandfather was a master baker who taught her to bake, and he told her never to put a cake in the fridge unless it's properly packaged. Thank you, Dawn. I think we can close our class session now, because that's the validation I need to just be like, okay, I told you so, didn't I? Okay. So don't put a cake in a fridge until it is properly packaged. And that is the information that you don't get or hear about a lot of the time, especially on the internet. Because sometimes you see cake makers who make cakes and are self-taught. And I don't mind self-taught. I am self-taught primarily so. But what I'm saying is that when you're self-taught, sometimes you miss out on the intention behind the practices. I was just lucky that even though I am largely self-taught, because unless you've gone to pastry school, but even if you've gone to pastry school, right, it's a different set of skill, except it refines your skill in a different way. But even so, to gain competence and be proficient in your skill, you have to practice. You know what they say? Practice makes progress, not perfect. We don't live by perfection over here. We live by progress, right? So to be able to get the best out of what you are doing, even if you do go to pastry school, you have to learn and you have to practice. But the difference is that you would have been taught in such an advanced level, so your skill is more refined and the intent is in your coursework. So it's like going to school to learn something, which is different from if you are actually taking the courses on your own and learning via space, if you like. So I was just lucky that even though I'm generally self-taught, my first intense classes were with an old school style cake decorator. The people who used to kind of make pipe sugar details with icing, like those old style sort of cakes. That was the sort of person who had won so many awards, and she never let me get away with just doing what I wanted. So I guess that has helped me a lot, but it's always important to understand the process and the intention behind the process. Lollipop went shopping and now she's moaning about the chocolate pretzels and gingerbread men she's bought. I really shouldn't go shopping when I'm hungry. Oh, well, going shopping when you're hungry is a whole thing, isn't it? Because yeah, that's the thing. When I go shopping and I'm not hungry, I buy what I need and I get out. When I go shopping and I'm hungry, I fill the whole bag with things I don't need. And when I come home, I don't eat. That's just by the way. Joyce World is asking, why wrap the cake before freezing? First of all, it's for packaging purposes, but the primary reason for wrapping is to trap the steam. So Joy, that's the answer to your question. Why wrap the cake before freezing? Because when the cake is directly exposed to the chill, it will lead to freezer burn, as in freezer burn. And you want to package it tightly so it's sealed. To freeze the cake, you have to seal the cake away from the elements within which it's going to be stored. So wrapping it is really important. You can't do anything other than wrap it. But the secondary reasons is that besides sealing the cake, you're also trapping in the moisture so that the cake saves. That's all. Because otherwise, if you put it bare in the fridge, in the freezer, you're doing the opposite, because it is then exposed. The bare cake is exposed to the ice. It will dry the cake out. Seasoning. Never knew about the cake absorbing odor. You've learned something today, isn't it? Joyce Well says, I freeze my cakes before decorating. Makes it easier. Joy, can you break down your process? Because whilst I understand why people do that, and yes, some cakes you have to chill the layer so you can put it together. There's also the subject of that resulting in cracking of the cake, as in, because if the cake thaws and you don't know what you're doing, the cake then sets and then the moisture from the frozen cakes begins to move in the cake and it will cause your cakes to crack. Do you experience cracking in your cakes when you stack them? Lollipop still has the cake from her birthday. And she says she defrosted it and it still tastes great. You know, that's why they say you can save your wedding cake for up to a year. Actually, don't do that. There's no reason for that. But yes, you can save your wedding cake for up to a year within the same conditions I have taken a long time to explain to you. Joy, were you answering my question that have you experienced cracking in your cake? And how have you handled the cracking? Oh, no. Okay, Joy says no. Season says, will wrapping cause the cake to become soggy on the top? No, because, no, not at all. First of all, let me just elaborate on that. For the cake to become soggy, it also depends on the recipe though, okay? So no, it doesn't become soggy. And actually, when you do freeze the cake, there is a way to kind of thaw it. And the best way to thaw it is just after you've sealed it, whether you put it in a sealed bowl, first of all, you wrap it. The sealing starts with wrapping it in cling film and then putting it in the freezer. So some people do that and then put it in another container. However you store it, all you have to do is pick out the cake from the freezer, leave it on the countertop and leave it alone. Don't touch it, don't do anything, don't unwrap it, right? Because then when it is thawing, all the vapor, the vaporization of the moisture that is beginning to thaw from the ice will end up on the plastic. So when then it thaws, you unwrap it and that's it. Sometimes you can do the odd thing by kind of putting it in the fridge, but it's neither here nor there. Just seal it properly, freeze it in a good environment, take it out, leave it on the countertop, and depending on the weather day, it takes maybe 2 hours, 3 hours max, depending on the day and the size of the cake. For instance, if I wrapped a cake like this and I kept it like in the freezer to thaw, to freeze, maybe I'll need about 4 hours on, say, a relative warm 16 or 17 degree C weather day, you know. So it's neither here nor there, but the simple answer is no, it doesn't cause your cake to be soggy. Okay, so Joyce World said, I bake and wrap my cake only because I saw my mom use to wrap it, and then I put it in the freezer, especially when I need to carve out some. Yeah, you know what, I think I spent a lot of time talking about the freezing bit because it's important for that information to be available so that people can make their own choices about the options of cakes and how you decorate your cakes. But if you freeze your cakes, it's not a bad thing, and some cakes or some project will actually determine that you freeze your cakes. For instance, if you have a large carved cake to work with, to be able for the cake to keep its form during the carving process, sometimes you have to work from carving. But for absolute beginners, I mean, from what you are saying, Joy, I'm assuming that you are a worst case an intermediate to professional style baker. So you have a lot of like experience and intention behind why you do what you do, which would work for you. But if a beginner was starting and they didn't have access to the wide-ranging information covering different contexts of the decorating processes and the intention behind why one thing may work or may not work, they may get things wrong. For instance, for freezing, whilst I advocate for each individual to do what suits them better, there's also the subject of freezing cakes and the cakes cracking when the layers are frozen and they don't thaw well. It is very situational. So you can freeze your layers, put it together, and then nothing happens. And then you can freeze your cake, put it together, and then when it's thawing, it cracks. It has happened to me before. So I personally don't like working from frozen layers. At best, I prefer chilled layers. If my cake is too delicate to handle, I'll leave it in the fridge to set completely so that it's firm for handling. But I don't like freezing my cake layers, and that's a preference thing. So it is neither here nor there. That said, let's talk about cakes in a fridge. Why would you put your cake in a fridge? Right? Thank you for adding that, Joy. Joy said, I understand what you mean, but the need to wait a bit after bringing it out. Thank you. Joy has literally answered my question for you. So you see, if we weren't having this conversation and Joy, you were making a cake and a beginner was watching you stack cakes from frozen layers, they probably would, if they didn't know to ask and you didn't realize to tell them, they will go and freeze their cake and stack it thinking that is just it. Meanwhile, they've missed a key part, which is that even though you've frozen your cake, sometimes you have to leave the cake to set before you continue the decorating process. Now I'm going to set this in the fridge, and I'll be back to talk to you about cakes in the fridge, right? And by the way, whilst we're talking about cakes and stacking and freezing and what have you, freezing cakes is not just limited to cake layers, you know. You can freeze whole cakes like this, and at every stage of the cake decorating process, you can freeze your cake. Fun fact. So if, say, I was working on a cake and I had a lot to do, and I decided that this I have to save for another week, all you have to do, following the same conditions, like the conditional guidelines I've already given, wrap this whole thing in cling film, set it in a sealed container, or box, wrap the box up in cling film, and then put it in the freezer to chill. And then bring it out to thaw when you're ready, and then go to work on it. It will save. Okay, so freezing cakes is not just limited to cake layers alone. Okay, I'm just going to put that away. Seasoning says there's so much to being a good baker, which is why I can't bake seasonings. It's true, there's so much to being a good baker or a professional baker, but here's what I will tell you for nothing. If you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it, you'll be okay. So never mind, you probably bake, but it might be something you want to do, but perhaps compared to other things you may be passionate about, you may not just be passionate about cakes, and that's the difference. But I'm sure there is something in your life you are incredibly good at, and you know the only reason you are good at it is because you love it so much, you obsess about doing it right all the time. So it's neither here nor there. Okay, see, we say practice makes progress, and yes, cake decorating is hard, which is why it doesn't irk me anymore. But the whole conversation about cakes has to be cheap or affordable is the sort of thing that goes over my head. It's like, you and I cannot have that conversation. If your point, I understand it. I'm not up here on the mountain because I feel like I'm a custom cake maker and there's this art thing that I can do, so you should be able to buy a cake from me. I actually I'm open. I am one person who will advocate for you buying what is suitable for your budget. I don't mind. I will point you to the bakery. I will send you off to Costco all happy. I don't mind, okay? And I don't live in the comparison bubble where just because you can't afford me in Walmart have a cake on a discount, I'm side-eye. No, we all have different needs. Will I spend £600 on a set of cutlery? No. And it's the same for you if you cannot afford a cake. Right? So different things for different people. What I cannot tolerate though is people, when a customer tries to kind of devalue what you do because they can't afford you. So they don't understand why the cakes are expensive, and they're like, oh, but it's only cake. No, try it and see. That's the thing I cannot stand. Dawn says a vacuum seal. Yes, a vacuum sealer for when you seal your cakes is great. So cakes in a fridge. There are times where you'll have to put a cake in a fridge, and I'm talking cake layers, okay? Generally, here's the difference between a cake and a cake in a fridge and a cake in a freezer. Generally, it's not advisable to keep your cakes in a fridge longer than necessary, and that is relative. I'll explain. Fridges are optimized to store food product for a certain reasonable amount without them going bad. For that reason, most fridges will draw out moisture, okay, just to preserve things. Modern fridges have been adapted to perform different functions in different compartments. So this is not a broad stroke thing for all fridges. But on a primary level, fridges are optimized for drawing out moisture and to preserve things by drawing the moisture and keeping things for longer, right? Which is why if you went and put your salad leaves in your fridge, there's a compartment made for the leaves so that it will stay fresh. And there are also recommendations for how you can save the salad leaves, your lettuce or whatever, so it stays fresh. You move it from one compartment to another, and then you have wilted leaves over there, and you're like, what happened to my salad? The salad is looking like, okay? So fridges are optimized for drawing moisture. And so for that reason, if you put your cake in a fridge and you don't package it properly, all you are doing is exposing the cake to the moisture being drawn out of it. And so a fridge will dry your cake, a freezer doesn't. Following all the conditions I have already explained, okay? That's it. So if you put your cake in a fridge, it should just be for a reasonable amount of time and for good reason. For instance, the conditions under which I will put a cake in a fridge is say if I wanted my cake layers to chill very quickly, okay? We're talking half an hour to an hour. I guess I should caveat by saying I have the advantage of a commercial fridge that is optimized for quick result for me and my circumstance. But if you're using a home fridge, you have to bear that in mind. So I want my cake layers to set so I can handle it. I'll put a cake in the fridge. Do I go and put the cake in the fridge bare? No. When I put it in the fridge, maybe sometimes I put a kitchen towel, a clean kitchen towel that is just for cake making over it, so it preserves it and doesn't draw out the moisture. So technically this is how I would save my cake layers in the fridge. Say I have a cake board, the cake layers are displayed on it, I put a towel on it, I put it in the fridge. If it's going to be more than 1 hour, what I'll do is I'll then wrap the cake on the board with cling film so it's not exposed, and then it will be in the fridge. That's the condition under which I will save my cake in the fridge. Like the cake layers we've just put in the fridge, that's in the commercial fridge. But when we are done, I'm going to go take it out, wrap it up, leave it to set so that we'll come back tomorrow to decorate the cake. So there are different conditions, but just be aware that a fridge would generally dry your cake out if you put it in a fridge longer than necessary. But I'm talking cake layers. Now you can put your whole stacked cakes in the fridge with less of that problem. You know why? Because when the cake is built up and stacked, you have buttercream. Buttercream ultimately adds moisture to the cake, so it will set and it will not be a problem. Should you put your stacked cake in a fridge longer than you need? Probably not. But I've saved a cake in a fridge, a cake that is stacked in a fridge, for up to 48 hours, especially when collection time has delayed or a change of circumstance has necessitated putting the cake in the fridge. I've done that. But I will always try and put the cake in the fridge wrapped up so that it is not exposed. And those are the simple conditions. So Joyce World says, I hate it and I love it, depending on the cake at hand. My dear, thank you. You are my soul sister. I feel the same way. I mean, I love cakes, but I hate it and I love it at the same time, depending on what cakes I am making. There are cakes that I have seen that have left me so anxious I want to roll over and close my eyes till tomorrow never comes. And there are cakes that just lights my brain and makes me so excited. And I think the thing, when I used to, and I say I used to because I don't, when was the last time I said I had a customer order? Not a lot. Because when I used to take a lot of customer orders, I was in that state a lot of the time. Like, I was always like, I don't like this cake. I don't like this cake. I don't like this cake. But the thing that makes customer cakes a little more of a joy is when you have a good customer who sincerely appreciates what you do. Even if they don't understand what you do, but they sincerely like feel excited and appreciate what you do. It kind of just makes the process a little better, you know. So Seasoning says, I'll pay any price for an excellent cake or cupcake, especially if I know the taste and texture is great. Won't we all? Won't we? You'll find that the people who the people who don't want to pay the actual value of a cake are people who don't appreciate cake anyway. Like, it's like saying a foodie who goes to a Michelin star restaurant that is known for its food. They will pay anything because they're there for the experience and they don't care how much they for it. And it's the same for anyone who really appreciates the cake. If they love cake, they know cake, they don't mind. I mean, would they want a bargain? Yes. But the people who tend to sort of devalue you down because they can't afford you, really don't value the status and what a cake really means. So it's like apples and oranges sort of thing. Lollipop says, I would. If I could afford it, I would. That's why I'm learning, so I can make an expensive looking cake completely DIY. Well, it's great you're here, Lollipop, isn't it? It's great. We are on our way. We're on our... I think, Lollipop, what you probably... Okay, so now... Nick is back. She was cooking. Nick, what are you cooking today, honey? What are you cooking? Because right now, you know what? Let me just tell you. Them people went and bought me this nonsense. Okay? This is what they bought me. For someone who decided to go for a nice walk, like an exercise and look after my health, this is what the people in my house gave me for dinner. Okay? The chicken is not sponsored, by the way. Okay? Don't come at me. Nick, the cake is in the fridge. We'll be talking about it tomorrow. Right now, I have chips. It's not even KFC chips. No meat. That would be diabolical. People, this is what I deserve, Lollipop. Of all the work I have put in for these people, this is the nonsense. Lollipop says, I'm doing a fry up tonight, darling. In all fairness, I have actually tried to eat healthy all week by making sure my meals are very protein rich. But for some reason, something upset my belly yesterday. So today I thought I'll slow down a little bit and just have something dry, which is why we are here. My everyday is not about that at all. I like to cook fresh and eat. So that's just by the way. People, it's 7:35. We have 2 lives, all smashed. Covered all you need to know about filling, stacking, and all the things in between a cake, okay? I think for what it is worth, let's call it a day and come back tomorrow. Unless perhaps, look, there is about 5-10 minutes for a question. If you have a question, go ahead. Put your question in the chat. I will answer it before we leave. Nicola says, eat what makes you happy sometimes. Nick, I love you for this. Oh, says the ice cream addict. I love a good ice cream. But if I ate ice cream all the time, it will not be good for my blood sugar and I'll be cranky. You haven't met a cranky Gladys. Oh, she is a devil with a temper and a short fuse. She is wild. So for me, eating is health. Eating well is health for me, not in a very strict sense, but just being mindful, because this is what I look like now. Let me just spill some tea on me. This is what I am like. If I eat that 3 days, like 3 days on a row, having hydrated properly, been sedentary, not moved a lot, sat here, and mind you, because I work from home generally, this is my home, I manage my time, I do what I want, okay? Much of it is also, if I'm not stood here and I'm doing admin, it's more like I can sit on my computer for up to 10 hours a day, editing and doing different stuff. So if I ate that, between that, pizza, and what else, like donuts, mind you, I'm not a sugar person anyway, so you won't find me scoffing on sweets and stuff, but there are things that can be good and there are things that are just not great for you. So if I ate like unhealthy, like fried foods, bagels, some croissants, and all the stuff that are not very balanced, I wouldn't say healthy, because healthy is still relative. What you need is balance, okay? If I don't have balance in what I'm eating nutritionally, by day 4 or day 5, I am cranky. I am about to lose it. I am irritated. My head hurts. Everything annoys me. So for the people around me to feel at peace and for me to have peace in my life, I have to have balance. So some days it's freshly cooked rice with homemade beef sauce, a boiled egg, and some coleslaw, and a lot of water. And some days it's a croissant, and it's all about balance. That's all. Balance. I don't live in a world where I want to deprive my needs, okay? But I think balance, it's all about balance and discipline, because I don't want to tell on the big producer, but that man loves sweets. That's all I'm saying. That man loves sweets. That's homemade beef sauce with boiled rice and a whole egg, Ghanaian sauce. That's amazing. Maybe you want to check Nick's channel out for some of the beef sauces and curries she makes. But otherwise, my people, last polite reminder, do like the video if you haven't. There's 11 of you. Who is new in the chat? Who is new here? If you're new here, let's see what show by hand. Let's welcome you before we go, right? Lollipop, what are you doing with yourself after the live? Are you going to oh, it's a fry up for you, right? Well, people, have a good one. Have a great evening. I'll catch you all tomorrow. I don't know what time though. Keep an eye on the community post. We'll catch up soon. Nick, love you lots. Lollipop, love you too. Thank you all. Dawn and Joy and Seasons. All of you, the crew. Thank you for always being here. I'll see you on the next one. Happy baking.